so happens that we've got a lady who has survived domestic violence in Colorado, was very blessed and fortunate to move out of the environment she was in and doing really well here in Texas. For her privacy, we're just going to call her name Jodie, and she's going to explain the situation that she had to deal with as a single mom. And fortunately, she lived to tell about the story, and she is a domestic violence survivor, but the state was not her friend in that whole situation. She fortunately had family support, and even the resources that are available for women who are in a domestic violence situation abandoned her in that time when she really needed them the most. So she has come in for Bryan College Station, and she's here to talk to our group in probably 10 or 15 minutes, and if you have any questions, whatever, she may answer some of those questions. So without further ado, Jodie, would you please come up and present the audience?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Jodie for all intended purposes. Actually presented a movie documentary that is kind of still in the makings of the end product of what I'm about to go into. About survival and freedom, basically. 30-year-old domestic violence survivor. I am an educated woman with an associate's degree. It's not like I'm just somebody wandering the streets or what. In my history of violence, back in my home when I was a child, I witnessed my father do domestic violence to my mother, and she would take him back, and then he would vow not to do it, and he would take it back. And ultimately, he did change, and he did get better. But as a child, 8 years old, said that I'm never gonna be hit as a woman. I'm never gonna let domestic violence touch me. And ultimately, I was 30 years old and living in a 4-level home in Colorado with my 17-year-old who was still living at home, living in the basement, his first year of college, and living with a boyfriend. And one day he snapped. I don't know why. All I know is I was mowing the grass. He got upset because it was too loud. Next thing I know, I'm getting tossed around and pushed around with his chest, and I'm going upstairs to my room. I'm like, hey man, just calm down. What's going on? Tell me to calm down. And I was bruised from head to toe, and more so because I wouldn't engage. I'm not gonna fight a 6'2" tall man. I wouldn't engage, but the part where I had to take action was he was going downstairs to my son. Oh yeah, watch this. Watch what I can really do. Look what I'm gonna do to your son. And I'm hanging on him with all my weight and might, and I'm being kicked and hit and punched as he's going down the stairs to tell me what he's gonna do to my son. And that's when it wasn't about me anymore. It was about, there's somebody who doesn't even know this monster's coming downstairs. And I knew this person for 2 years. I didn't get hit. I didn't get hands laid on me. I was terrified. My shirt was torn. My clothes were torn. I was bruised up. I had no other recourse. I had to defend myself. All I have was the chalk block of knives that are in the kitchen. They're right there by the stairs going down. That's what I did. What scared me the most was he turned around and just stared at me. Is that what you're gonna do? You're gonna shake me? And I'm like, it didn't faze him or nothing. Don't go down there. But I did divert his attention back to me. And he pushed me back against the chair, and I'm fighting, and all I know is by the grace of God, I pushed myself up, yelled for my son, grabbed him, went in the garage, got in my car, lock the door, lock the door, lock the door. And as I'm putting it in reverse, he's shutting the garage door, and I'm pushing the garage door open. It shuts again. I'm just like, hold on. And we take off. We escaped. We went to a friend's house, well, a friend of my son's, called the police and said, I just stabbed somebody. Please send an ambulance. I don't know what happened. We got out. I got beat up. So they go, okay, well, where are you at? They talk to the people. I got arrested. They came, put me in handcuffs, took me to the police station. I was tore up. The people that we went to gave me a shirt to wear, and some sweats. They take my story, they follow up. They go to the house that was shredded to shambles. They took pictures. The basement, where all my son's stuff was, everything was damaged by, I don't know what you call them, a crescent wrench or a man's tool?
Crowbar.
It wasn't a crowbar, it's one of those that you can spin. Yeah,
Monkey wrench?
something. His computer was torn to pieces, his everything, his furniture, his TV, all the doors that I had told them. Upstairs, this door was kicked in, this door was kicked in, they were all charred and frayed, pieces of wood everywhere. He did go to the hospital, but because his injury was what they called worse than mine, I'm the one who got jail. I'm the one who ultimately, when all was said and done, got the felony. But it wasn't even just that. It was the investigator even said, he's in the hospital for the day. What are you gonna do? I said, get the heck out of there. I think one time's enough. And so we did, all my coworkers, we got the U-Haul truck with all my stuff on me, and I never went back. He's never seen me again. I've not had the same address or phone number, don't even live in the same state, but I had to live in a shelter, a woman's shelter. Put my son in a safe house with a gun owner, with a person who believes in open carry and gun rights. Just the thing about Colorado is that the law at the time, and I don't know if it's changed or not, says a person, an adult does not have the right to protect a minor unless the minor has already been hurt. And so when I went to my lawyer's office, and I'm like, if my son had been hurt, you'd be defending me for a whole different reason, and not just self-defense and get out. When it becomes over self-defense, it's more when you continue and continue and continue to hurt somebody who's already down. I'm not bad-mouthing what the state is doing. It is the law of the law. But if we don't get out there and make changes, we don't get out there and spread the word that we do have a right to defend ourselves, we do have the right to defend our families and our friends, then please spread the word. If I can be of that little bit of assistance and letting the awareness out, it happens. It happens every day. The worst thing is, it's a shameful thing to say, oh yeah, I got beat up yesterday. You know, not many people brag about that, but the thing is, know what to do. Teach your children, not just females, teach your male children and your female children how to survive. And what I always say, and I know, I try to say it to everyone I go, is the secret to survival is never quit trying to survive. That's my story.
Anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions for her?
How is the legal battle as far as getting your charges dropped?
They're not. They're not. In the state of Colorado, they're not active warrant for my arrest. It's just not nationwide. I don't go there. That's my home. That's what I consider my home. The only reason why it's still active is, yes, I did all my probation. I did everything I was supposed to. But they wanted me to pay restitution. I'm not going to pay. I refuse.
To who?
To the guy who beat me up, who caused my life to change.
Who said
upside down.
this?
The state of
police?
Colorado. The state of Colorado.
I imagine you was your opinion.
Oh, all the time. And the only reason why I still have something is I refuse. And they call me once every 6 months. I'm not going to pay restitution to a man who ruined my life, who made me have to move from my home, from my state, to where I'm at now. And I'm not going to call myself a victim. I am a survivor. I'm a 50-year-old person, and I have survived domestic violence, and I will never pay restitution to that.
Thank you, Jody.
So what's interesting about that case is Colorado will not extradite her, and Texas, doesn't, well, that's their state. So fortunately, she was allowed to move to Texas and, got away from the danger, and that's, lives to tell about it. And a lot of women never survive these types of attacks, and that's what's interesting. So we're going to switch over to Self-Defense Fund. I am the marketing director for Self-Defense Fund, and how I got them as a client, worked with CJ on many things, but at my church, I was volunteering to be on the safety team, because they can't call it a security team for legal reasons or whatnot. So I was on the safety team. Of course, I haven't had a license since 1995, I guess, when the law first came. So I've been carrying for 20 years, and of course in the Marine Corps, I volunteered on the anti-terrorist training. So I had trained with shotguns, pistols, rifles, and all that kind of stuff. And my wife had a license as well, so we always had a gun with us when the law first happened. So anyway, volunteered on the safety team, and there was some chatter in the marketplace from a security firm that basically was saying in so many ways that you really need to have a license if you're going to be on a safety team. And so I went to Self-Defense Fund, and I actually switched over to Self-Defense Fund because of CJ. When CJ made the move, I said, well, he's been probably researching this issue more than me. I better look at what the services. I didn't even look at it up. I just switched because he did. And then later on found out, wow, they're pretty comprehensive. So that being said, knowing that I had access to SDF from being able to ask them legal questions, which is a real big benefit, because normally you have to pay a lawyer $350 an hour or $700 an hour, depends, to get an opinion. And I wanted to find out. It's like, my church was in legal jeopardy not knowing what they didn't know. And so as I'm doing research, Larry asked me, he's like, wow, you're doing some really good research here. He says, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm in marketing. And so anyway, he said, hey, we need a marketer. So that's kind of how I landed the gig. But the danger for my church is they really didn't take the advice. And the thing is, if you're a church, and I'm not offering legal opinion here or whatnot, you go do your own research, but if you're a church, they had to have their own coverage, which SDF provides to private security. And I have a brochure on that. So in essence, the church would have to have its own certificate, and any member that volunteered on the safety team would have to have their own coverage, either through primarily since SDF was offering it through SDF, to be covered under the same umbrella per se. And then with me being a member already, there was no additional cost to my church to be covered. They just had to put my name on their certificate. So that way, if anything ever happened in church, we wouldn't be fighting each other, and we wouldn't be dealing with an insurance agent that wouldn't know who to call. It's like, what lawyers do you call? What's the process? All that stuff would be handled through SDF. And so when I found that out, I was like, wow, that's pretty smart, But anyway, so that being said, as the marketing director, I knew about open carry and the issues that we were dealing with, because I did support CJ when he was issuing press releases on the marketing side of what I did do for my company. And so I started seeing him get picked up on major news stories and all that, which is really cool. And again, going on open carry demonstrations myself, because as a marketer, it's always good to go do what your clients are doing or what your customers are doing, so you know more about their world. So with SDF, and as a dad, and also dealing with the legal issues, like, hey, if I ever, nobody in this room ever wants to use their weapon, their gun or whatever, because the legal consequences are not in your favor per se, and it can be costly. And so what I wanted to do was to close the loop on the litigation side. It's like, I really want a company that's going to back me and not shy away. And they supported CJ. And you've heard the story of how that litigation is still going on. I mean, they're into it about $175,000 on CJ's case. But when it wins, it's going to be a win for everybody. Okay, and that's the type of company that SDF is all about as well. So I do have a comparison chart I'll hand out later. But on the marketing side, we have to grapple with all the different things that you can do in marketing to educate the market at large. So when Valente talked about CJ Grisham being involved with Price of Business radio show, the strategic part of that is we now have access to the media. Okay, so you have to use the media, you have to use events, you have to use advertising, you have to use memberships and all that kind of stuff. So SDF is basically positioning to be more than just a provider for the membership. It's like, how can we help you with your events? How can we help you accomplish your goal, your mission, and give you a bigger microphone when it comes down to it? And interestingly, on Price of Business, we're on Business Talk KT 110 AM, and also I think it's called The Word, KNTH is the call sign, on 1070 AM. So our shows air on those networks, but it's on Bloomberg's Home for Radio. How interesting is that? And then we're also participating on the Dot Green show as well, which is on Raging Elephants Radio. And it's also now that Dot Green's on a national platform with the American Voice Network. We now have ability to talk about issues when it comes to gun rights and the litigation aspect. Again, having a bigger microphone. So with SDF, basically it is comprehensive. We just found out this week, because of domestic violence, that they do cover domestic violence, rape cases, and of course, you know, we're mindful of the talk that's even in politics now with rape and domestic violence and how women are treated. You know, when you're voicing your complaint or you're registering your complaint, you know, the system really isn't your favor, in your side. But having somebody like SDF play on your side can give you a lot more, you know, support, if you will. On the gun side, basically they cover you criminally and civilly, $1 million plus unlimited legal costs. Because if you do use a weapon and you do have the guy that was the attacker become the victim, well, that's now criminal. That's on the civil side, and so you need that protection as well. They do cover job loss. So in essence, if it does go to court and you have to miss work, they will cover up to $500 a day for the job loss. And then if your car or vehicle gets impounded, they will actually cover that part of recovering your vehicle. It's not a reimbursement deal where you have to come out of pocket. It's one phone call. In fact, the less you say in that situation, the better. Let them do the talking, you know. Up to $100,000 in bail, you know, and that's considered like a capital offense for that amount of bail. And you know, I think CJ and I, we went to the Waller County protest. You know, when I was riding back, you know, of course I relay out some of this stuff back to our team, you know, at headquarters and so forth to let them know what's up. And it's like, hey, just don't get arrested or whatever, you know, if you can. But unfortunately, you don't have control of that when you're dealing with law enforcement sometimes. But anyway, everything went well. But on the way back, I kind of tested the theory. I called up Larry. I said, you know, CJ and I, you know, we were trying to stay out of the situation, but we're you know, I didn't use CJ's name, sorry. Use my name. I said, you know, can you come bail me out? He said, well, tell us where you're at, and we'll send the bail bondsman on the way. And of course, I told Larry, I said, no, man, I just wanted to see what that process might be like. So I kind of half made a joke there, but it's legit. Call the phone number. They will handle it, and if you have any legal questions, they'll answer your questions. They'll get you legal opinion if you need it. 'Cause you always see these Facebook pages where people are asking, "Oh, what's the law here? Why are you taking advice from people you don't even know that aren't even lawyers?" Whatever. Call the number, you know, and have them answer, or send it by email. They'll be glad to do that for you as a member if you're a member. Although we do have a kind of a promotion now for those that are students in college. Right now, if they have a question, you can call the emergency or the emergency line, and they will basically answer a question for you that you might have for a college situation. And we are also reaching out to professors and teachers because, you know, they are the ones educating our youth, and a lot of them don't have the right information as well. And so we are offering some opportunities for them to get training with the training that we're offering with the No Shoot with Sergeant Damon Ing in Fort Worth and Dallas, where they can get, you know, the training they need, whether they go through and get their license or not. It's a good exercise, at least familiarizing themselves with gun rights. So I think I'm done as far as the pitch on SDF. If you have any questions, I don't have any legal answers for you, but if I can get you the answer, your question answered, if you have the flyer, my email's on there, the phone number's on there, I'll get that over to SDF, and then we'll promote it, you know, publicly, if you don't mind, without mentioning your name or whatnot, if you don't want us to, what the answer to that question is for our state. Now keep in mind, we cover all 50 states. Tribal lands, this is a big thing. People don't realize that on tribal lands, if you go to a casino, that's tribal land. And you're not supposed to have a gun on tribal lands, right? Or if something happens on tribal lands, it's now you're in tribal court, not U.S. court. Also U.S. territory, so if you travel to U.S. territories or you have a family that's in the military, we do cover U.S. territories. We do cover gun manufacturers. So for any errors and omissions, you know, I just got a call a couple weeks ago from a small dealer. He does about 660 guns a year, and the ATF has been breathing on his neck. And he's had cases in the past where SDF has helped those problems go away. But he crosses, you know, he dots his I's, crosses his T's. They never really have an issue. They're just being very adversarial to him. And so he basically was calling, you know, to have a situation resolved, and strategically they were recording, you know, he's recording what he did or what he didn't, the situation, and letting them handle it. Should it become an issue? Right now it's not an issue, but for FFL holders, we cover them, private security, and those types as well. So I'm done.
All right.
Questions? Questions in the back?
I've been having a Texas law shield protection for a few years since I got my license.
Right.
What would be the difference between your self-defense and Texas law shield?
Okay, I have a comparison chart, but SDF is comprehensive. Okay, for example, we cover all 50 states. I don't know what they cover, but if you look at the add-ons and different things, we don't have any add-ons. It's comprehensive. So I think at one point I did a comparison with a competitor, and the add-ons added up to like $1,700 a year if you look at all 50 states. Now, if you don't travel a lot, that's okay. If you're not going to Louisiana or other states, that may not be a concern. But if you do travel and you're planning on traveling this year, you don't have to worry about that with SDF. And then we cover $1 million per incident per family member. Okay, so in essence, right now, the stats are that when a carjacking happens or a home invasion happens, it's not one person, it's 2 or 3 people. What if you have to defend yourself against 3 people? Each one of those is a separate incident. $1 million, $1 million, $1 million, a defense on your side. Okay, so I really encourage anybody that's with a competing membership, do their research, okay? Because you'll see, it'll stand out like a sore thumb. I've got, again, a comparison chart, all the checks on our side versus the add-ons on the other side, plus the other limitations on the other side. So the challenge I have too is like, we're all about providing life-saving information. So that's why we're invested in the education. That's why we're investing in the domestic violence. We're even looking at first aid, best knowledge of first aid. So we're partnering with the leaders in that world. But if you have to use your gun, you lose your liberty, your life is over. Basically. So it is life-saving information, and that's what the legal membership really is providing. Plus, we want to give groups like Open Carry Texas, not just in Texas, we're reaching out to Florida Carry, Oklahoma Carry. In fact, we just did an interview with the executive director from Florida Carry. I'm reaching out to Oath Keepers. All these big groups is like, you know what? If we all come under an umbrella and we get the message out, you touch one of our members, it's like touching a porcupine. It's going to be costly. Because we're not going to give up unless you give up. If you say, hey, stop, then we'll stop. But if you say, hey, I'm going to the Supreme Court, guess what? We're going to the Supreme Court. Good. And a lot of these laws have not gone all the way up to the Supreme Court. Typically, they drop them in the interest of justice so that everybody else still pays because they don't know what they don't know. Our lawyers are junkyard dog lawyers. They don't just bark, they bite, and we've heard that saying. And we've got 150 of them nationwide, and we've got solid backing. And basically, we're not looking for a fight. We don't want to fight, but we definitely, in fact, even Larry Collar was on the radio recently. Abuse of power situations, that's self-defense.
So if they settle, you don't accomplish nothing.
Well, again, do the membership, yeah, well, it's up to you, the client. You're the client.
Yeah, but if they settle out of court, that means you haven't.
Well, again, that gets into legality, and that's something that, I don't know what the legal maneuvering would be in that particular situation where, the settling happens, whether or not, because there's other, other things that they can do, and that's really up to them to decide, so.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
To take it to an appeals court. So it's not just oh, you lost the case and then they end it. It's also if you lose the case and then they decide, hey, this isn't right, whatever happened to you isn't right, they'll take it to the appeals. They try it.
And they cover the cost.
Yeah.
The paperwork, the court documents for his case was $12,000. They don't just give you those documents, the court standard after, so they covered all that, so no out.
So, and he just happened to have had the self-defense fund coverage. He didn't recognize, what he was having in terms of his coverage. He didn't anticipate getting arrested that day, but he did. And unfortunately,
and I can tell you, he is a paying member too. And that's really one of the things I can get a free membership as a marketer, and I can negotiate that with my client. But I said, no, I want to be a paying member just like everybody else. So I can say that, and we don't really believe in paying gun strikers. I think there's an ethical situation there, so we don't do that. Now, we will provide funding like we do with the nonprofit Cypress, Texas. We want to provide funding back to you to help you. For me, for example, to do this event on Facebook with Teach CJ, I would charge $1,000 for it, which OCT doesn't have the budget for that. Okay, but through SDF, since they're my client, I can invest that know-how into helping future plans because it doesn't really come out of my company, it comes out of SDF, and really I already know how to do it. It doesn't take that long, but again, it's value that we can bring back to the organizations that we're working with.
I encourage you all to pick up some of the free literature that Andy brought. Thank you, Andy, for bringing that. But everyone, I brought you all together on a Sunday, so now that pretty much concludes our meeting, and now we can actually network with each other. If you care to share each other's stories and or want to address us, feel free. Anybody want to come up here and say anything?
Yeah, something to say.
anybody's going through anything.
Insights that are happening in the
You just defended yourself with a gun. The police are called and you are potentially involved in a homicide, but it was self-defense. At this point, you are not in your right mind. No one ever is when they are in fear for their life and defend themselves. Anything you say can and will be used in a court of law, both civilly and criminally. Fortunately, you have selfdefensefund.com. We are the National Association for Legal Gun Defense, and we protect our members nationally in all 50 states, up to $1 million per incident per member. Let us do the talking for you and visit selfdefensefund.com. Any weapon, any state, anytime.